Hello, my name is Mary. Welcome to the Build Vibrant Health podcast. Today we have Anna Stid here. She is a energetic and metaphysical chiropractor. I'm really excited to have you on today.
Thanks for having me, Mary. It's always great to see you. I love your aloha spirit.
Thank you. Fun story. How we met was at Ecstatic Dance in Sedona. And I previously, the whole summer before, kept seeing your car, your Colibri, on a Colibri, and I kept seeing your car, your license plate, and you were driving in front of me that, like you were parked next to me in Whole Foods or Natural Grocers or at the park. And I kept thinking, I'm eventually going to meet this lady whose car they'll always park next to me or who's driving in front of me. And so we finally met, fast forward like 8 months later. And now here we are, and you can see the little hummingbird in the background.
A colibri.
Colibri that's hummingbird.
Yes.
Okay, right. And so I also have hummingbird spirit is really important to me as well. So I feel like there's a connection, mutual connection there.
Absolutely. I love the hummingbird medicine and hummingbird spirit.
Yeah.
So my practice is actually called Desert Colibri.
Right. That's what I was going to say next. And so how does the hummingbird spirit, how does that weave into your practice?
That's a great question. It's so much a part, just like aloha is part of you. The hummingbird spirit has been with me since almost like 20 years. I could write a whole book on my connection to the hummingbird and the hummingbird spirit in medicine. And so it just feels like it's just always been like a little guide.
That's super
for
cool.
me. Yeah.
Yeah. It's really bright and joyful, and hummingbirds are a source of resilience.
Yes.
And I know you've had your own health and healing story. And with that, I'm sure resilience and joy is a big part of that. And
yes.
Do you want to share a little bit about your story of how you got started in this work?
Yes. So, well, I got started a long time ago. I was like one of those chiropractic miracle type people. A friend of mine who I was in undergrad with, she was in chiropractic school at the time, and she invited me down to South Florida, where her family was, and I went there for 4th of July, and she was in her first or second year of chiropractic college. And I didn't know it at the time, but I had all the telltale signs of early symptomology for autoimmune, like Raynaud's condition, which is like where you don't have very much circulation in your hands. And there's sort of this like red, white, and blue phenomena. And so I could remember having cold hands my whole life. And so she's like, can I adjust you? And I'm like, sure. I really trusted my friend. And so she adjusted me, and it was literally like someone took the light switch and turned it on.
Wow.
Because all this warm sensation came all the way down into my hands that I haven't felt. And I don't even remember how long. I was in my early 20s back then. And so she got me connected to some chiropractors where I was living. And after about 2 years of going to them, I decided that I wanted to quit the corporate treadmill, and I wanted to be of service and get into chiropractic. And so that's how that all started. And then, I've just met some definitely challenges along the way, mostly because, I grew up on a big farm in Michigan, where, it was kind of
I didn't know you were from Michigan.
Yeah, I'm from Michigan.
Okay. Me too.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. So I lived in just south of the greater Lansing area. My uncle and my dad had a big, huge, typical Monsanto farm up in the Midwest, right? And so they used a lot of Roundup, a lot of pesticides. We had a well, so who knows like how much of that seeped into our water. And so, this doesn't usually show up until a few decades later. And so I didn't know about we didn't know until probably in the last 10, 15 years, the effects of glyphosate and how that really affects our system and our immune system. So it makes sense to me now that I'm putting all those things together. And who knows, like we probably had, because dealing with the 4 seasons, I'm sure that we had mold in our old house, in our old farmhouse. So add that to the whole mix. And so learning about these things, like I said, decades later, and what we know now. And so I got reintroduced to probably black mold back in 2017. And I didn't know it at the time, but Epstein-Barr virus is such a huge thing. And a lot of times it will lay dormant in your system for decades, and then it's very opportunistic. And so I basically had a re-inflammation, or basically a chronic form of Epstein-Barr that came acute again, because when you're introduced to toxins in your environment, like black mold, that it rears its ugly head again.
Right, and it just dampens your entire immune system.
It dampens your entire immune system. And so in 2017, we had a lot of rain, because I was living in California in Marin at the time, and we had so much rain, and just about every house in Marin got exposed to mold because of all the flooding and everything that happened. And so unfortunately, I had just kind of gotten out of a toxic relationship, and so my heart space, my emotion space, my spirit space was a little bit also low, which also I believe plays a part in it, because we found now that trauma, along with emotional, along with toxins, you add all of those things together, and it becomes like the perfect storm.
Yeah. I had a similar experience. I don't need to go into my story here, but that was multifaceted. It was the emotional piece. It was the physical, the environmental, it all culminates. And we were just talking about that on the podcast before. You have that beautiful sketch of what you do, the home run, and we can talk about that a little bit later. But it really does bridge and marry all of those. And so how did you take that experience and put it into what you're doing now?
It's a really great question. So it's been a step-by-step process. It's like you discover one thing, and then you go into that experience, and you find the next layer, and then you find the next layer, and then they find the next layer. And so it was definitely one of those. I mean, I was down for the countdown, I call it, where I was bedridden for almost 6 months.
Wow.
Like, I literally was going to get like the Myers cocktails, IVs that are the heavy duty, like nutritional IVs, twice a month, just so I could have enough energy to go get groceries.
Yeah. Mold will do that to you.
I mean, so I was down for the countdown. And now understanding, it's like, it's not just the nutrition that your body needs, but it's like the detox that your body needs, and how to do that safely. And so I didn't know about that till, 3 or 4 years later, when I found a company called Cellcore that knows how to take care of like a lot of those kind of toxicities safely and effectively, and has a direct protocol that takes it step by step by step by step. And so I didn't have that back then. However, it's so interesting because I'm not sure how much I can talk about this, but I will say this, that different places in the world. Here in the United States, we can only allow so much like life, the push at the end of the Myers cocktail. I'm having a little
Glutathione.
Glutathione. So I know here in the States, they only allow, like so much, and other countries, they allow a much higher dose.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I went to Copenhagen, because I felt well enough, and I was there for some kind of conference in Lithuania, but I stopped in Copenhagen to see a friend. But I knew along the way I needed to find a place where I could get the Myers cocktail. Well, in Copenhagen, instead of giving me a glutathione push that was this big, they gave me a glutathione push that was this big.
Wow. And how'd your body feel with that?
So very typical, I had a huge detox reaction to that. So it was like I had the cold and flu, but I knew it wasn't from being on the plane. I knew it was from that. However, after my body, to me, like a cold and flu is a great opportunity of your body basically expressing detox.
Right.
And so by the end of that 2-3 weeks of having like a pretty severe cold and flu, I was good. It's like it was gone. And so that was something that I always remembered. I was like, okay, good to know. But it was like, it was almost like my body could finally, it's if this is the line, and I was just it was like just coming here, and that push just pushed me right over the edge. So my immune system could start to kick in again.
Nice.
And take over. And then of course, those type of things will go back and lay dormant. That doesn't mean that you've gotten rid of them.
Right. Well, for someone that's not familiar, so glutathione, do you want to
Yes.
tell people what glutathione is?
Right. So it's something that the liver makes naturally, unless there you've got some hindrance in the whole detox,
Right.
your whole detox system. So of course, getting into the whole systems of that is a little bit more complicated.
Yeah, no,
but in
just as a
nutshell.
basic. Yeah, and you can
Right.
get glutathione, like there's certain
Yeah.
foods that help your body produce more glutathione,
Right.
like avocados is one of them. I
Right.
don't have the whole list in front of me.
Yes.
But as our bodies are depleted
Right.
by toxins
Right.
nutritionally, glutathione is one of those things where if you were to do a panel,
Right.
most often glutathione is going to be very
Yes.
low.
Yes.
And I remember when I first started taking glutathione, I was taking liposomal drops,
Mhm.
and the serving was a quarter teaspoon, and all my body could handle was like 1 to 2 drops, little
Right.
drops at a time, and I would have a detox reaction.
Right. Right.
So to have to go from this to
Mhm.
that, I can totally see how it would push your body
Right.
into that
Right.
detox. And I'm
it's
glad
not,
for you that it was the thing that helped you
yes.
come
Yes.
come back to life a little bit more.
Right. Yeah, no, it's so true, because it's like, especially if you're really, really toxic, you can't just go overload.
Right.
You really have to take those little baby steps,
Microdose.
microdose. So
And I noticed that was on your poster. Actually, where is that poster? Do you
yeah,
have
right
it?
here. Yes.
On this poster, that's why it also says like toxins, homeopathic. So, I think that's really important to focus on the homeopathic and like the dosing and the bio individuality of each person.
Yes, it's
Right.
so huge. And then along with that, it's, I'll go ahead and just kind of go into this whole thing, but
and so if you're listening to this, you can't see it, like if you can see it, great. But right now we're holding up a picture of a home run formula, and on it is toxins, homeopathic, emotional stress, structural, and biochemistry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Go for it.
So basically you have to take in the bigger picture, all of these different things, because they all play a part. So it's like you can go after the toxins, but if you don't go after the emotional stress, it's almost like chasing something that is elusive and you can never quite get it.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? Talk to me about like physical, the structural component with toxins.
Okay.
I'll give an example. Like I have a client who she was doing chiropractic work for Lyme disease and mold.
Yes.
She would go like 2 to 3 times a week, but it wasn't until she addressed the nutrition piece of it and the toxins that she didn't have to come in for as much like chiropractic. So can you talk to that a little bit of like why?
Right, because it's like when you're only hitting like one of those 4 categories, it could only do so much. It's kind of like it's like when you're drinking turmeric, in your golden milk thing, but unless you have the black pepper in it, right? It's the alchemist.
That's a good analogy. Yeah.
Right? It's like the alchemist that allows your body to actually uptake the turmeric. Otherwise, it's like you can't fully process. And so if you're just doing the structural and you're like releasing toxins, but you don't have any system or anything in place to actually pick up those toxins and safely take them out of your body, then it's like it's up and out, but there's no way to get rid of the trash. Right. It's like just allowing, like putting it constantly in the compost, but it's not breaking down.
Sure.
So it's like you have to systematically go after all of these things, and they all have a season as well. And everyone's so different. And it's like, okay, now it's like it's almost having an intuitive connection to the person you're working with, because everyone is so different. And so it's just like, okay, you kind of have to get a feel for their system and how it works. And you can have the lab work and you can do all these things. I find a lot of times I like to utilize frequency modalities like the AO scanner, because a lot of AO. It's so great, right? Because it'll literally pick up. I mean, it's not a diagnostic tool medically. However, I find that frequency will often pick up before a lab ever will. Right. And I found the AO scanner to be so incredibly accurate. Yes. For example, last year, I couldn't get rid of the hiccups. I had hiccups, like violent hiccups for like 24 hours.
And I've tried everything. I tried holding my breath. I tried peanut butter. I tried like someone scaring me, drinking different things. Nothing worked until I did an AO scanner and it picked up. I forget exactly what it picked up, but it gave me, the frequencies to listen to. And within 10 minutes, my hiccups that had been there for 24 hours gone.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so I find that energy medicine is basically, it's the future of healthcare and wellness care. I mean, it doesn't replace everything, but it's such a nice accompaniment to if you're having the nutrition, because it's like everything has a frequency, right? And so viruses and bacteria and all of these and molds and toxicities, they have a low frequency.
Right.
So even if you have a higher frequency, again, if you don't have a way to safely take these things out of your system, because, if you've got a clogged colon, if you've got a clogged kidneys, if you've got a clogged liver, if you've got a clogged lymphatic, and even down to the cellular level at the mitochondrial level, if all of those things aren't working, on all 8 cylinders and are open and clear, then again, it's just like, I mean, this is a terrible analogy, but you'll get it. But it's like, trying to pour vitamins over a clogged toilet. I mean, it's really gross, but you get it so easy. It's like, you can put all these things on top of it until you get the pipes moving.
Right. Yeah. If you have glyphosate and mold toxins and things in your body that have stopped or like causing congestion, and you can take all the supplements and minerals that you want in the world, but your body's not going to absorb or assimilate it or know what to do with it.
Yes. And so I was lucky that I kind of got a free pass, maybe because I've always been under chiropractic care has been such a godsend for me, literally, because of the autoimmune. It's always kept it at bay. But it's kind of like I'm a lifelong client, just like with yoga or meditation, because it keeps my nervous system free and clear and opens everything up. However, if I don't get enough sleep, if I don't get enough exercise, if I don't have the right diet, and then if I don't do the detoxes, things just start to pile up. And so like your friend, like she's like, until she started doing those other things, because it just shows you like we're such a multi-dimensional faceted beings. And so the other thing that I would add to that whole thing is the spiritual aspect too. So having like a spiritual practice or meditation, finding like that inner peace is so crucial. I also find, I have like a spiritual coaching practice too that I do, which is outside the scope of chiropractic. So I keep it separate and distinct, but there's that, that certain percentage of people where like, they need something that's, above and beyond emotional, mental, and physical. They need to address that spiritual part of themselves. And so I feel like that is also something that doesn't always get addressed. Especially the mental, emotional. I have a wonderful mentor, and he's been in practice for like 70 plus years. And he said to all of us, he's like, almost 80% of all unresolved physical things are emotions, stuck emotions in the body. And I believe that.
What percentage?
80%. 80%. And so I'm like, I believe that because emotions really are just energy in motion. And so if that energy in motion doesn't have a place to go and it's not moving, it's just like stagnant water that stays there and collects. Right?
I think you have to be doing both of those things at once, the physical and the emotional. And
physical and emotional. Right.
Yeah.
And so of course, there's so many ways to do that with movement, yoga, breath work. I also like to utilize a technique called Neuro Emotional Technique, which is the somatic brain and neurological feedback in the whole body. And so it doesn't really process on a conscious level. It processes more on the unconscious or subconscious level, because really that's what runs the show.
And how does NET work? What do you do?
So basically we talk to the body. and we ask the body, usually I usually will go in through the body. There's other mind, we call them a body practitioner, a mind practitioner. I'm more of a body practitioner. And so I'll, because a lot of our specific emotions will actually get stored in different organs. Like, for example, anger in the liver, bitterness in the gallbladder, the pancreas, self-esteem, grief in the lungs, or having that control issue, which is another form of grief, in the large colon, or the large intestine and colon. And then if you just go straight down where where all of our
meridian,
this
chakra.
Sorry, right there. It's kind of like, yeah, the chakras are.
Okay.
But I also want to all the glands.
Okay.
All of our glands. And so in the China, and it also incorporates the Chinese medicine. So this is like the fire element. And so all of our glands, like, from our gonads to the thymus, to our parathyroid and thyroid and the pituitary. So all of these things hold certain emotions.
And they're all in the center of our body. I think it's really powerful.
For the vagus nerve is.
Right.
And so the vagus nerve is straight down the body here. And that's really what controls whether we're in fight or flight, or freeze, or we're in the parasympathetic, which is like the relax. It's the calm. It's like where we heal. But if we're constantly running fight or flight, we can never, if we never get out of fight or flight, we can't really heal.
Can't truly heal.
Truly heal.
And both toxins, physical toxins, can damage the vagus nerve, and emotions can as well. I've noticed, I've been doing biodynamic cranial sacral for the past 2 years, and that is a really powerful modality. And the practitioner that I work with noticed, as I detoxed my body and started really adding like regenerative health into my body and healing that way, that my vagus nerve and like my pulsatory rhythms, nervous system wise, started to come back online. And so vice versa, right? Like the toxins and foods we eat also do physically affect our body, but also the emotions can. So addressing both of those is key.
Addressing all of those is so key. So it's like, okay, it's like having a puzzle, right? And you're like, but I'm missing a piece. I'm missing this piece right here, and it goes right here, and I can't fit the other ones in until I get that piece.
So when you go in and ask the body, are you like muscle testing, or what are you doing?
So I'll muscle test. So I'll go in. Can I show an example on you? So I'll have you uncrush your legs here. So I'll use your hand here. And you can keep your elbow nice and straight, and just don't let me push down. I'm a late one. Okay. Just say, my name is Mary.
My name is Mary.
Okay. Say, my name is George.
My name is George.
So see how that's
my brother's name.
That's funny. All right. We can use that. My name is Eric.
My name is Eric.
Okay. Yeah. See how that just gives? And so my name is Mary.
My name is Mary.
Okay. Then I'm going to go like this. Say, my name is Mary.
My name is Mary.
You see how that goes the opposite? So it's like, those two light switches. Now you switch the other one in. So it's just yes is no and no is yes.
Okay.
Okay. So I would just go into, and what I would do, Mary, I was just like, okay, let's check to see which one of your points here in all the different places. And so like this one's a really big one right here, right? So right there, hold strong. And then go ahead and put your hand across your forehead. The other hand, hold strong. So see how that gives? All right, so with how it's strong right here, it's like, I'm strong. And then you add the emotional points and it goes weak. Boom.
Oh, okay. So what does that mean?
So that just indicates that your body's indicating there's a stressor, and we can check it out.
Okay.
And
so, what is this part? You can't really see, but it's like,
it's right. It's kind of like
right there
on the right side here.
Side.
So that's called the ileocecal valve. And if you think of it, it's like an elbow joint where the large and small intestine come together.
Okay.
And it just happens to be a really big stress point. I find almost everyone, especially in this country.
And so what would you do, like, as a stress point? Then from there, do you ask the body like what's going on, or like how do you determine what's needed?
So we go through the whole process where we ask the body, okay, hey, what's going on? Like who? What is the emotion? Who is it? Who does it belong to? We can even index for like approximately how old you were when the
when you
original
stored
event
that.
happened, where it's stored. So basically where you took a left turn instead of a right. And then we unpack, and it basically just unpacks all of that.
Wow.
And completes it. So it's not like it's like a broken record that's kind of running you in the background.
And I think the really cool thing is you don't have to like be conscious, you don't have to consciously be aware of it either. You don't have to put words to it. Your body's own intelligence will speak.
Like, there's a book that I haven't read the full.
The body keeps the score.
Yeah, the body keeps score, right? The body never lies.
Yeah,
so
it really
so
does.
Great. It's like you can just go right in.
Yeah, it's true. Bessel van der Kolk, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
For if you're listening and want a good book, the body keeps the score is good.
So yeah, it's a beautiful process. And I like to think of it as like 30 minutes of this work is like 10 years of therapy.
Wow.
I mean, it's not going to replace therapy, so I can't say that per se, but it's a lot of, I know a lot of mind practitioners say that like where their patient or has been stuck forever, it finally makes that leaps and bounds.
Right.
Quantum shift.
Peeling back layers. Oh, quantum shift. That's a big word.
The quantum shift, because it's like all of a sudden, like for example, I had a patient where she really wanted to stop smoking. And she has been secretly smoking since she was 14 years old. And so we went in and we found like the point where we could go in. We found the emotion. We found out that, she was 14. And then we found out why. And she had this, and like, it's crazy because all of a sudden it's like, I totally had forgotten about that memory. Now I remember. And then it cleared and she goes, I haven't picked up a cigarette since.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's like clearing the why, the body does what it does. And it's like, okay, the body needs something. And it's like, okay, this is what gives me that ability to like or calm my nervous system to smoke. Yeah. And so when you take away that need to have to do that, it's like, she's like, I didn't even have the desire.
That's beautiful. So that you're able to help people in that way.
Yeah.
Do you ever find that there's memories or things that you're working with that people just don't remember or can't trace it back to what was the cause of it?
Yeah, I just had that happen with another person. And they didn't remember during the session, but the next time that I saw them, they're like, oh my gosh, I totally remember what happened. And I even said to them, I'm like, so we can clear it without you actually having to know. All we need to know is that it's this point and this point, and this is the connection that needs to be made so that the healing can happen and it can, and the nervous system can move on. So in a way, like, it's a weird thing to say this, but I never actually want to take it away anyone's pain until we know what the message is. Because that your body is so crazy smart. Like our bodies are so smart, it'd be on any other technology that's on this planet. Yeah. And so if you can go and like really honor that, like your soul, your spirit, I'm gonna even go there, has a reason why you go through these lessons in your life. And so you can't really take that away from the person. You never can anyway. Right. It'll just come back or find a different place or different phase and show up. Right. And so until you actually learn the reason or get the wisdom from that experience, your nervous system, your whole spine is basically an index history of everything that's ever happened to you in your entire life. Yeah. And that connects into all the organs. It's all connected up. So when you really honor that place, then the body's like, okay. So in NET, nothing ever comes up that's not ready to actually process. And usually the priority will come up. And so we work with that priority. And when the person can finally have like, connect all those dots, and they're like, oh my gosh, that decision that I made when I was 5 years old has colored my whole life. Isn't that wild? And all the choices. Yeah.
It could be affecting you 20, 30, 40 years later.
Yes. And so when you finally like get that aha moment, why you made the left turn instead of the right turn. Yeah. And then come to that clearing or that and get and it's almost like what do I want to say? I'm having a total brain fart right now. It's funny. But a reclamation, if you will, of that moment and having that peace and having that coherence. And so it really helps to bridge that gap, and then allows the person to actually finally move forward, because you're actually witnessing and honoring that place and space.
Totally.
Yeah, and it might, the memory may or may not come up later, but it's not really important. Not even having the emotion is important, but just knowing that that's the connection, and you're connecting those things up and breathing through it.
And for NET, is this something that you can do in one session or multiple sessions, or like typically what does that look like?
So you can get a lot done in one session. And then a lot of times, other things will come up, and then all of a sudden, like way down the line, if I'm working with someone, that same issue will come up, but a different aspect of it. And so, but the body wasn't ready to process that aspect yet. And so it might be like a deeper layer. So I kind of think of it, it's like, you're just getting all the layers of where the body and the mind is ready to process that. So it's a very honoring process.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the body speaks through its own language. I think communicating sometimes, or words are really powerful, and they can help facilitate, but sometimes things like talk therapy or talking through things, like it just has you go in circles sometimes. And it's not necessary. And sometimes it's even like can be re-traumatizing. And try to fix things like verbally, or try to have the mind figure things out. Whereas when you're working with the body.
Because you're only dealing with one
piece of it.
Right. And so you need to deal with all of them. So it's like, here's the emotions, and like, let's say this is the nervous system, and then here's the body itself, or just the whole system. So it's like, it's really touching on all of the places. And so, we also work with homeopathics in NET to keep clearing out.
What is a homeopathic with NET?
So we have these little sprays that correspond to the different meridians. Like, so we have fire, metal, earth, water. So all the different elements that are connected homeopathically to the organ system.
Gotcha.
Plus a little bit more other things like 911, like always being in the fight or flight place. So it just helps to address, because even after the session is done, the body's still processing. And so it's a really great way to help people keep supported. So as things still come up, the body can still process it. It helps. Homeopathy is so potent and so powerful. And I can't speak to that like personally, because I'm not a homeopathic practitioner, but I know the power of it just in my
personally. I do too. It saved me from bee sting, from a brown recluse spider bite, from pneumonia. It's the thing that really, and some may argue it's placebo, but and placebo can be really powerful, but there is something energetically to homeopathic medicine. It's like it provides your body the blueprint energetically to heal, and like kickstart the body's own response back into healing, is how I look at it.
It's kind of like a little knock on the door, a little reminder. I'm like, hey,
this is how it works. Like, we're going to give you a little blueprint of to remember.
Absolutely.
So that you can do your own job. And that's what I'm a big proponent of. And that's why I love the work that you do, is it really like you hold space for the body to do its own healing. You're not like forcing it to do something or like giving it this strong detox protocol. You're like, okay, what does the body need? What does this individual person need? And how can I serve them and support them so that their own body can come back into balance? Because sometimes the world that we live in, we just need a little extra TLC and some extra support to be able to get where we want to be.
All the things.
All the things.
All the things. Right. Yeah. And everyone's, such a unique flower, if you will.
Or hummingbird.
Right. The little nectar. So you're coming back to that hummingbird spirit. The flip side to joy is grief. Right. And so that's the other part of the medicine. And so all of us have had like grievances in our lives, and that can be a heavy emotional toxin to process. And we don't really have a really great way of doing that in our culture. I mean, going to a wake or a funeral and then having like the day to process, a few days, and then like you have to carry on with your life. Things come in waves, from my own life experience. And so
we live in such a fast-paced go culture that it doesn't always allow us to process allow our bodies to
Yes.
feel what it needs to and go through the experience. Like animals in the wild shake,
Yes.
they are, even like dogs, even our pets.
Right.
Sometimes, or hopefully, have like a mechanism to
Right, they
release
just
trauma and
shake it
stress.
off,
They
right?
shake it off. We don't necessarily do that a lot of the time.
No, you're
And
like,
if we do, then we stop ourselves.
yes. Yeah, you're so right. We are just constant, like, I mean, we're a cell phone culture, right? It's on to the next thing.
Right.
And
And that puts your body in the state of fight or flight.
right. Well, you tend to check out.
Hmm.
And so one of those, that's, you're never really processing anything when you check out.
So what are some processes for you that are important to stay grounded in your body?
Oh my gosh, spending as much time, since we live in the beautiful area of
Yeah.
Sedona, outside
Mhm.
in nature.
Yeah, I spent almost every single day this past week at the creek, and it's
Yes.
been amazing.
And the water
Yeah.
is one of the most amazing, even on a spiritual level. Like, I
Mhm.
love water, like bathing in water, being near water, because the negative ions that come off of
Mhm.
running water is
And you just got back
potent.
from the ocean too.
And I just got back from the ocean too.
Yeah.
Right, in Bali.
Which is like next level.
I
Yeah.
love it. Yes, all the salts, water. I mean, it's
Mhm.
just water, just even taking a bath or taking a shower. Like, every time you think about it, if you feel really bad, even just taking a bath or a shower,
Mhm.
how much you feel so much better.
So much better. You feel so much refreshed. And I
Yes.
like when I take a shower, I like to set an intention.
Yes.
I include the shower as part of my morning practice, really, and just let those things wash away. And there's something so powerful about, we're
Yes.
80% water.
Right.
And so I don't know, even just the act of showering is really cleansing and
Right.
can be a reset
Yes.
button.
And then
Drinking
water.
enough water. Yeah.
Drinking enough water, since we are 80% water,
Mhm.
80 to 90%. And eating and doing, like, you can even take it another step forward. We have such amazing resources here. We have the water store where they have all the different kinds of water that you can get.
Mhm.
And so really, you can put an intention into your water. You can add a little sea salt to your water to make it not salty, but to have the electrolytes in it, especially if you're drinking reverse osmosis water.
Yeah, definitely important to remineralize.
Yeah, remineralize the water to give it life. There's so many ways, like those, I forget what they're called, but those devices that you can restructure.
Oh yeah, restructuring, ionizing. I went to a conference this past weekend and it was interesting. It broke it down into two things. Are you drinking, or two major things on hydration? Are you drinking hydrogen, electron-rich water and electron-rich food? Essentially, that's like life force food and water.
Yes.
Is your water dead or alive?
Yes.
Which is, kind of weird to think about it if you've never thought about it before. But if you are reverse osmosis and distilling your water, you're stripping it of the life force energy that it has.
Right.
So even just putting it back in the sunshine can restructure the water. Really simple way. You can't get a fancy little machine, but also just putting, like a mason jar of water in the sunlight does restructure the water.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh, that makes sense. It's nature's way of
restructuring the water. Yeah.
Right. That's well, thank you for that tip.
Yeah,
I'm gonna do that.
Yeah.
I have been drinking only distilled water for the last 2.5, 3 years.
Wow.
Because I learned from a conference as well that most of our groundwater is contaminated. And so sadly, and so I add back these Zeta crystals is what it's called, like a scoop in the whole, a few scoops in the whole 5 gallon, and then I put it in there. And then I have a little restructuring device. But yeah, it's made such a huge difference drinking the distilled water.
And you probably notice a difference if you try to go drink something else.
Right. But you have to add back minerals.
You have to, right.
Whether you do electrolytes and you add, I'm always adding electrolytes to my water anyway.
Yeah.
Because we live in the high desert.
Yeah.
So
it's just really dry here.
It's really dry here. It's really easy to get behind the
Bali or Hawaii. Oh man. Yeah. I've been drinking the spring water up at Flagstaff Harding Spring.
Yes.
A friend recently tested that and it came back really high in parts ppm, 125 ppm. I don't know of what yet because that has yet to be tested, but it is really important to know your water source and what is in your water.
Yeah, because I understand though, and it's a normal thing here where we
Mhm.
live. Arsenic
Mhm.
is in all the water here.
Yeah.
So that's something that I just can't have in my system.
Right.
Even if it's the tiniest of it, even if it's safe, because it accumulates.
It does.
And
Yeah.
so
Just like glyphosate or like any other toxin is really important. That's why you do what you do.
Right.
We both are, you know, helping people to feel better in their bodies by lowering the toxic burden,
right.
both emotionally and
Physically,
environmentally,
environmentally.
physically. Yeah.
Right. Yes. So yeah, there's
Yeah.
so much. Yeah. So
Well, thank you so
my
much. I
pleasure.
appreciate
So
it.
wonderful chatting with you. Thank you for
Yeah.
coming.
Is
and-
there anything else you would like to share before we part ways?
Yeah, just you know, go out today in nature and take a nice deep breath, and hopefully where you live you get to see some hummingbirds.
Yeah, beautiful.
Because they bring so much joy.
Here in Hawaii, unfortunately, not.
Oh, I know, and there's no hummingbirds in
But there's
Bali.
plenty here, really.
I think so. Yeah, I've never
Okay.
seen them.
Yeah.
I think it's a long way to go.
Yeah. And if
Okay.
anyone wants to reach you, how
Yes.
can they website, contact
Sure.
information? I'll drop it in
Yes.
the show notes.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I have a website. It's definitely needs to get updated. So sorry about that in advance, but at least you get a little feel. It's Anna, ANNA, Stid, STID. So AnnaStid.com, my name basically. And if you want to reach out to me or text me, you can reach me at 415-325-2133.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yes.
And you know what? I do have one other question for people who are reaching out to you. Obviously this is her office right here that we're
Yes.
sitting in. But do you do virtual or like
I do.
telepathic as well?
I
Not
do.
telepathic.
Well, I
is
do
that the right word?
Zoom sessions and
Yeah.
I do phone sessions.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
So you don't have to be in Sedona or Cottonwood to
No.
see you.
Yes.
Perfect.
I mean, I can't do the adjustments, but I can do other things.
Sure.
And I can do the NET.
Right. And if you do
virtually.
want to see her in person, it's a perfect opportunity to come visit the beautiful land of Sedona.
Yes.
So thank you so much for joining
pleasure.
us today. And if you enjoyed this episode, please share with a family or friend who could benefit. Really appreciate you tuning in today.